Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Thursday, the usual start to the regular season. It is November 15th. Of course, this season, it is not the usual start. We are starting a week earlier. If you haven't gotten the memo already, the season has begun. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we are supposedly live streaming. We have tried something new tonight. We paid for it, and we hope it is working, and we'll see. We'll find out. No, maybe not. We don't know. We think we started. We'll find out here shortly. If not, we'll find a way to make sure it works. If you got questions for us, we told you how to get a hold of us. We would look forward to it. Yeah, there we are. I see us. There we are. We're on Facebook as well, simulcasting along with our YouTube stream. And, of course, if you're listening on podcast, we appreciate you taking the time to join us there as well. So it is November 15th. We are underway. Strange things have occurred. There was snow outside our house here in the Mid-Atlantic area today. We expected snow, just not accumulating snow. And believe it or not, it's already affected some of the schedules. It's not often that this early in the season we have games that are postponed. For example, New Jersey City had their women's season opener delayed against Pratt Institute. It was snowed out. They will hope to reschedule it later. Something happened with the a tournament that was supposed to happen at Drew this weekend. It's heading to Montclair State in women's basketball. We'll talk to the aforementioned coach about that. It's just interesting, to say the least. If you got yeah, I mean, it's one of those years, I guess. I don't mind. I like snow. I just wasn't prepared for it. We were told it wasn't going to accumulate here, and we got like 3 some odd inches of snow out there. So it made for a rather interesting day. Forgive the little bit of the rough shave. Got a long weekend ahead of basketball games, and so I decided not to rip up the face today, so I hope you don't mind. We're also drinking the tea to make sure we're good and ready to go for the weekend as well. So let's see. We already have had some upsets, which we have certainly talked about often on the previous shows. If you missed it, I apologize. It's been a pretty popular topic. We've had some other results. We'll double check. Believe it or not, our friend Daryl's already gotten his top 25. What do we call it? Recap week that was type thing set and running, and we usually do that at the beginning of the show. But let's give you a quick recap of what we're going to cover tonight. Later on in this first hour, we're going to talk to the Women's Basketball Committee Chair, Karen Harvey. She's the head coach at Montclair State. She has been on the show other times, so she'll be coming on as committee chair. She's entering her 3rd year, though she just re-upped for her official term as Atlantic Region representative. She took over for Dave Martin, the athletics director then at Misericordia, who left and went to Scranton. She took over for him, but because he was more than halfway through his tenure, she took over and it doesn't count as having been on the committee for 4 years. So she officially is now in her first term, as it were, or her first 4-year term. So she could conceivably end up serving 6 years on the committee. Who knows? I don't expect to ask her that question, but we may dive into it. But she is committee chair, taking over from Bobby Morgan, who was the head who is a head coach at Haverford, but was in her final year last year as committee chair. Well, final year on the committee as well. So she takes over, and we'll talk to her about who may be new on the committee, who's replaced whom, and what they're expecting this year. It's the first of our 2 committee chair interviews. The next one will take place a week from Sunday, November 25th, when Sam Atkinson will join us here in studio to answer your questions and talk about things. Also, later in the program, we will talk to Ohio Northern men's basketball coach about not only his All-American, but really how everything else is going with him. I expect maybe the Polar Bears a surprise, and Rich Bensman will join us to talk about whether I might be on the right track there, or he'll act coy and not discuss it. And we'll also talk to Emory and Henry women's basketball coach Ann Crutchfield. Team is nationally ranked for the very first time. They got a big win over a nationally ranked opponent in the opener, got another big win over a strong Maryville squad, and they head to Randolph-Macon not to play conference games, but conference games are around the corner as well. So Ann Crutchfield will join me here on the show to discuss all of that. Lots to cover on the show. Again, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or mention us at Hoopsville. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com as well. And on Facebook, we will try and monitor the chat room in there if anybody is there. Speaking of which, I will take a what they call a quick-a-gander and see if there's anything in there. Whoops, I just lost it, actually. I apologize. I accidentally closed it. I think I saw it maybe having some issues. We are using a new service to help stream our stream, and so we're hoping it's working. We're going to double-check here momentarily. We also have the tough news that we dealt with yesterday out of New England. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I want to make sure things are working on our end here for your enjoyment. YouTube, I see Dan Thome, the Oshkosh Uni looks good. It does look good, sir. It does look good. We think that's where its home will be. We're still kind of playing with the studio. We got more uniforms to hang and other places to put them. But, yeah, I think the Oshkosh uniform looks pretty good back there, as does the Ramapo and as does Brockport. We've got Greensboro's hidden right now for some reason. I put a seat cushion over it. I don't know why I did that. Of course, the Battling Bishops and the Center. You also have Nazareth and John Carroll. We have a lot of good ones. So it's fun. It's absolutely fun. Oh, hey, Hachi, how you doing, buddy? How about that D3 kid that threw that elbow? Well, Hachi, now that you mention it, yeah, woke up yesterday to the news that a young gentleman had made a poor decision in a basketball game. If you have not seen the news, which made it around not only Division III, but, of course, the national news leaders, ESPN, CBS, Fox, TMZ, Yahoo, Bleacher Report, yeah. Fitchburg versus Nichols, who was at Fitchburg, in a non-conference game. And Mr. Platt was a little disappointed in a few things. Let's take a look at the video as we pull that baby up, as you can see it running here.
Here's Tracy.
This is on offense for Fitchburg. Mr. Platt's going to get the ball here in the corner. He's going to go shoot a three. Doesn't like a no call, airballs it. And then we go down to the other end of the court on a semi-break and watch what happens in the corner.
The corner wide open to Naglia.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You saw that correctly.
Personal foul there against Platt.
Hauled off and clocked the player from Nichols. What makes it worse, in my opinion, is a simple fact that he looked back into the official on the baseline to determine if he was looking at him. That's at least how it looked. And then clocked him. I've been somewhat reserved in my thoughts on this topic. Let's start with the fact that the school immediately decided that this young man was to be suspended. They actually banned him from campus, which was honestly somewhat surprising. They have indefinitely suspended him from the team. They've actually removed him from the online roster, and he's going through the disciplinary program that is part of the college. I'm impressed with the school's response. I'm not impressed with Mr. Platt's response, or I should say actions. I'm very impressed with Nichols' reactions. Pretty unreal. But let's look at what I had to say for the most part. For those wondering my opinion about the D3 Hoops player who clocked an opponent, I applaud the steps taken by Fitchburg State as an institution. Too many other institutions have dragged their feet or hoped it didn't happen. They suspended the player indefinitely and banned him from campus. His conduct is being reviewed. I'm also impressed with the opponent, who not only remained calm, but didn't seek retribution in the heat of the moment. Too many times
An incident like that is made worse by the reactions of everyone. I'm beyond disappointed, even angry, at the player who apparently decided to take his frustrations out, RE regarding the game or supposed non-call, who knows, by assaulting, and I'm using that in quotes, an opponent. It appears he looked to see if the baseline official was watching before launching into the player. Leading with a forearm and then showing apparently no signs of remorse was disgusting. I'm not sure right now how long he should be suspended, but calls for the rest of the season are justified. I certainly don't want to see him on a D3 Hoops court anytime soon. There is no place for this kind of behavior in sport, let alone Division III. We have seen a few incidents in the last year or so, including outside of hoops, and more schools and conferences need to be aggressive, as Fitchburg appears they are being. No excuse. It was premeditated, calculated, and uncalled for in any circumstance, but especially when wearing a uniform which represents a school, conference, Division III, the NCAA, and more importantly, yourself in the sport. For those of you who have had a few questions regarding my thoughts, there have been some incidents in Division III and elsewhere where schools have, in my opinion, soft-pedaled their responses. We can certainly look to Duke and certainly talk about some problems there. I don't know. I can't speak for Duke, but they decided to indefinitely suspend their star player, which turned into a game suspension. But there's also been some incidences in Division III, in other sports especially, where players' conduct during a game has been uncalled for at the slightest level, borderlining on ridiculous at the worst level. And from the outside in, it doesn't look like much happens. Now, I could be wrong, but Fitchburg has been very proactive. Now, I can't say what triggered their proactivity. I don't know if it was because all of a sudden Yahoo Sports, ESPN, and others were giving them a call besides D3Sports.com. But their reaction certainly was aggressive. Banning him from campus was certainly an interesting tactic. I am in no way, shape, or form ever going to want to say that this young gentleman's life should be ruined for this moment. I think he's done enough to hurt himself. All I can say is that the decision was poor, and I don't believe he should be on a court anytime soon. My words by saying suspended for the rest of the year being justified, I think that's a justifiable argument. I don't know if that will be the case, and I don't know if we'll see Mr. Platt on the field or on the court ever again. I don't want the rest of his life ruined by this decision, but at the same time, he must face the consequences. There is absolutely no room for this kind of behavior. We do not take out our frustrations on the game or on the lack of a calls or an opinion of a lack of a call by an official by cold-cocking another student-athlete, or in some cases that we've seen, the officials. And that's what we saw here. The player was absolutely crushed. It's hard to say otherwise. I think what makes the good in this decision is the Nichols reaction. The fact that Nate Tenaglia did not get up, granted he was hurt, but did not get up and chase after the player. The fact that his teammates, many of them may not have seen it. By the way, he nailed the three. He nailed the three. Mr. Platt, Kevin Platt, airballed his three, and it looks like if you watch the video, he thinks Tenaglia fouled him. Man, I've watched that in slow-mo. If it's a foul, it's the ticky-tackiest of fouls, but he wasn't happy about no call. Airballs the three by a mile. Taglia buries the three while getting buried himself. But he could have gotten up and retaliated. He did not. His Nichols teammates could have gotten up or gone off against Mr. Platt. They did not. The bench stayed on the bench. The coaches remained calm. That was, hands down, the best reaction I've seen. And don't forget, we can go back to Daniel Webster, where there was an on-court moment where a guy headbutted somebody and the entire stands came unglued. We've seen other incidences where everything has come unglued. You don't have to go that far back in the NBA's history to see that either. So hats off to those involved for remaining as cool as they should be. And granted, I think some didn't see the incident happen and reacted accordingly. A couple of things. Let's see. This comes from the MASCAC. Interestingly enough, Mr. Platt was named Player of the Week in the conference earlier. They rescinded that. Here's what the commissioner had to say, Angela Baumann. The MASCAC and Fitchburg State University take the incident very seriously. We are appalled by the actions of the student-athlete. He's been indefinitely suspended from the team and barred from campus. In addition, the case is under review by Fitchburg State for consideration of further sanctions. The MASCAC has also vacated his Player of the Week award. His behavior goes against MASCAC's missions, which includes good sportsmanship. On behalf of the MASCAC Fitchburg State, we apologize to Nichols College student-athletes team and institution. Again, he did get Player of the Week. He got named it either Monday or Tuesday morning. So it was weird when you go on the website and you see his name there, and hey, he's Player of the Week. Oops. They rescinded that. So hats off to them on that, because I think you could make an argument you didn't have to rescind it. It was rewarded based on the earlier week. Yes, I get the calls on why you don't have that. Don't get me wrong. Optically, it looks horrible. So, but I'm just saying, technically you didn't have to remove it, but they did, and hats off. This is what Fitchburg had to say. The Fitchburg State community is appalled by the conduct displayed during Tuesday night's home basketball game. The player involved has been indefinitely suspended from the team and barred from campus effective immediately. This was as of yesterday. His behavior is anti-ethical. I hardly ever see that word used. Anti-ethical to our community values and good sportsmanship. Fitchburg State does not tolerate behavior that violates those standards. The case is being reviewed at the student conduct level for consideration of further sanctions. We should point out he was also a criminal justice major, which I thought was pretty significant. There was one more thing. I hope I held on to it. I have a bad feeling I may not have, but bear with me here while I quickly try and find it. We did reach out to Nichols, and Nichols gave us a statement as well. Here we are. This is from Chris Colvin, the athletics director at Nichols College. We are troubled by the unfortunate incident that occurred Tuesday evening's men's basketball game at Fitchburg State University. The Nichols College student-athlete involved was able to complete the game, and we continue to monitor his health. Remember, he got hit in the head and came down hard. We are proud of the way our student-athletes handled the incident, and they did not allow it to escalate. We are aware the Fitchburg State administration is handling the matter. So all things considered, well handled by everybody. And I do want to have that out. Not handled well by Q1 Platt, but handled by everybody else well. So hopefully we can move on from this. It was unfortunate. It was uncalled for. I did not want to wake up to a text message with a video clip. The second slam was to realize national news had already had it. That certainly didn't like it. It certainly created the rest of our day, but so be it. That's what happens, and we move on. But unfortunate. I hope we can move on. I think all parties have handled this the best they can. And hopefully we don't see anything down the road where we need to keep talking about this. Again, I don't want to see him on a D3 Hoops court anytime soon. Anytime soon could mean let's get through the holidays. If he's back in January and the school feels that that's the justification to do, or the MASCAC feels that that's what they want to do, that's on them. I may have an opinion then, depending on how I feel about it. But right now, let's see. He'll serve his time, as it were. He'll deal with the ramifications of his actions, and we'll go from there. If he's on the court next week, I'm going to have a different opinion. But if we don't see him until at least January, so be it. If we don't see him the rest of the year, that's up to the schools. I guess so be it on that token as well. And with that, I would like to move on from the topic, though I'm quite sure some more questions will be asked about it, but we'll move on nonetheless. Speaking of which, Ira's got a question. Where's the New Jersey City jersey? New Jersey City jersey. Well, first off, we wanted to get up other jerseys. Second off, we've been promised there might be a new updated version coming to us, Mr. Thor. And if that is the case, we will maybe play a little game. Send us the new one. We'll hang it. The old one, though, it's actually hiding, if you can spot it, over near my left shoulder. It is hiding. It's not fully displayed, but it's there. All right. So there you go, folks. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us at Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. I'm hearing that the video and the audio might be slightly off on YouTube. I can't do anything about it, folks. I am sorry. It may be with our new restreaming techniques, and we're going to have to get used to maybe making some adjustments with that. And I apologize if the audio and the video are not in sync on YouTube. I do apologize. I just don't know if there's anything I can do to truly fix it, especially tonight. The sadder part was these changes we made haven't necessarily helped our computer. So back to the drawing board to some degree. All right, so with that note, I'm going to double check, make sure we haven't got any other questions somewhere. I'm sure there might be some. And again, we have coming up, and speaking of questions, coming up, we got Karen Harvey from Montclair State. She's the women's basketball committee chair. So I'm hoping some people have some questions for her coming up here sometime soon. A reminder, we'll be back on the air Sunday as well, by the way. Next Thursday's Thanksgiving. No, we are not doing a show. Why would you think such a thing? But I think that might be the only show. Well, we're still debating on what we're going to do with the 28th. Might still take that one off or do a podcast, as I will be down at heading to the Division III soccer championships to be on the call for those. That's the only other show really in question right now between now and the Christmas holidays, when we will take a few weeks off for that. By the way, back to the Fitchburg story one more time. I did check with the head of officiating for Division III on the mechanics of what happened. He was actually pretty pleased with his officials. I was a little frustrated that we couldn't see the exact signals after they had the huddle and then talk to coaches. The signals say, hey, it was a flagrant, he's been ejected, all that, because apparently there didn't seem to be a PA announcer at Fitchburg State. There were broadcasters, but they didn't know what was going on either. But that's almost semantics to some degree. When you've had the huddle with the table and the coaches and your fellow referees, a lot of that stuff doesn't really need to happen. So almost one of those conversations with we'll keep that. He doesn't have to go too deep into that. Ira says not until next year will we see a new logo or a new jersey. Well, fine, we'll find a home for the New Jersey City uniform. Even though the men's basketball team off to a rough start, Mr. Thor, off to a rough start. Speaking of that top 25 news, we'll cover this before taking a break. On the men's side, Nebraska Wesleyan off to a good start at 2-0. No surprise there. Oshkosh hasn't started. Augustana hasn't started. MIT, Whitworth, Williams, Hamilton, Platteville, Wittenberg, Middlebury, John Carroll, Maryville all have not started yet. They all start this weekend, which is kind of why we called tonight's show the Season Ratchets Up title. Whitman got its first win over Laterno. Laterno actually played a good week out in Northwest Conference. Only lost to Whitman by 14. That shows a lot more in my mind of how good Laterno might be. Springfield had a good week, though. Their player, I didn't have that video queued up. I apologize. Jake Ross tweaked his shoulder. I'm not going to guess as to what kind of injury he may have had, and we've not reached out, mainly because of Fitchburg State incident, on how Jake is doing. But there's video of him getting rolled on and tweaking his left shoulder. I'm not going to speculate on air. I've speculated with friends as to what may have happened. I think it's recoverable. I don't think it's a major injury, but we'll see. But the first loss comes to Hopkins. We mentioned that last show. They lost to York, but they have DeSales coming up tomorrow and then in a tournament. And then New Jersey City lost its first game of the season against Stevens, 72-56. I'll be honest, not that impressed with that loss. They've got Eastern Mennonite and Bridgewater coming up. St. Olaf, the number 23 team in the country, has lost the first two games out of the gate. They lost to Eau Claire, then they lost to Stevens Point. It's not going to get easier. They've got Whitworth and George Fox in their next two. Listen, St. Olaf's going to have a very good SOS and other data, like regionally ranked opponents, but it's going to take some lumps here out of the gate. They easily could start 0-3. I hope they don't start 0-4. I think they got to get that win against George Fox. In the receiving votes category, we mentioned Roanoke lost. They got back on the win side with a win over Clark Summit. Laterno lost to Whitman after beating Willamette, we should point out. They got Shriner and Texas Lutheran ahead. Wash U lost to Webster. And that was certainly an interesting outcome. Lost by 8, 72-64. Cabrini lost to Eastern. Keene State lost to Springfield, no surprise there. Salem State lost to Keene State in a battle of receiving votes tied for the same amount of points category. And Yeshiva lost their first two. They looked ugly against FDU Florham, blowing an 18-point lead. And then last night, I watched them lose to Ramapo 72-69, a game in which Yeshiva was leading. Yeshiva was leading in that game late. They could not get the ball inbounded cleanly for the life of them. I think I saw 6 out-of-bounds plays in the last 20 or 30 seconds, and they couldn't get the ball in clean once. Not once. Ramapo got a hand on it, or Yeshiva couldn't handle it. Nothing against the inbounder. I think it was Katz. Those were not crisp, solid passes. They didn't have enough oomph on them. There were a couple that just seemed like at half speed. And they gave Ramapo a chance. It also didn't hit free throws, I should add. Gave Ramapo a shot. Ramapo hits a bank shot with a guy in their face with 2 seconds left. Then get the steal. Right? No, they fouled. Got the... How did that happen? I'm sorry. I actually literally am forgetting. Oh, no. They got the steal. That's right. They got a steal on an inbounds play, a lob over the top that wasn't lobbed nearly enough. Easy steal, timeout called, inbound, bank shot, or a fall-away shot in the corner, nothing but net at the buzzer. Yeshiva blew it. Blew it. All right, got that out of the system. We'll talk about the women's scores coming up, and we'll talk more about what's going on. Hey, Dan, you do not have to go watch the Packer game. Oh, come on. You do not need to watch the Packer game. This coming from a Bears fan, just for the record. Going to take a break. When we come back, Karen Harvey joins us from Montclair State. Wow, that was a long block. I apologize. We should have broken that up. But Karen Harvey will join us. We'll talk women's committee stuff, and then we'll talk about her team. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville. Or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Forgive me, got to get my headset. Our headset fell. Gremlins of the early season and not having a tech guy. You can email us. You can also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, and, of course, many other ways to contact us. And if you got questions, especially for our next guest, we hope you'll take the opportunity to send them our way. So every year at the beginning of the season, we talk to the National Committee Chair, for both committees to talk about what's going on in Division III with the committees and what they're working on. Obviously, there's not a lot of committee work per se at this time of year, but everything now is going to be talked about in February, so we always like to kind of lay the groundwork with our committee chairs. For the women, we have a new committee chair. They're into a rotation now of having a new one every year. Don't know if that will stick, but we've had it for a few years now. It is the Montclair women's basketball coach, Karen Harvey, who's technically starting her first full term, but also her second term. It's confusing. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is the aforementioned Karen Harvey. Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk about the team and some of the other craziness going on in Jersey coming up. But first and foremost, well, congratulations on the chairmanship, I guess.
Yes, thank you. No, it's really exciting. It's a great honor, especially when you're voted in by your peers. And, Bobby Morgan was a great chair, and she did a great job leading us. So I'm hoping that I can do the same. I learned a lot from her, and, I'm excited for the opportunity.
If Bobby's listening right now, I think you've got your $20. You're good to go. I kid. Bobby was great. It does have another coach involved who's a chair, which I certainly applaud, but it's another coach who's also probably tournament bound. We've seen a rash of these, Whitewater, Haverford, now you. How much are you concerned that when it comes down the nitty-gritty, you might actually be sitting on the sidelines just hoping the committee's able to do their jobs okay?
Well, there's always a chance of that, and I took the chair knowing that would be a chance. I'm in a little different situation this year. I have a really young basketball team.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say we're not going to be in the tournament. I hope we're in the tournament, but we've got to make a lot of things happen between now and then. So, I didn't want, knowing kind of the situation I was in with my team, it seemed like a good opportunity and a good time for me to sort of take over. And we have other things in place should my team make the tournament. Sure. And I not be able to participate.
Absolutely. Nothing against your team, but it's almost like, okay, if I were to take the chairmanship, which year would be better? I kid. But, yeah, I can understand that balancing act, too. Everybody wants to be in the tournament, but you do have these other responsibilities. And as we discussed, and we'll discuss in a little bit more, that you have to step aside if your team's being discussed. Let's back up a little bit. First off, there's always rotations. We always lose 2 members minimum. Technically, that was the Atlantic region this year, where you had served the 2 years, as we mentioned earlier in the show, for Dave Martin. Technically, your term was, quote-unquote, up, so you got re-upped, which you can do under the rules. That means there's only one other who needed to be replaced, and that was Bobby Morgan out of the Mid-Atlantic. Am I correct, or am I missing one?
No, I think you're off 1 year.
Okay.
Actually, we lost Kelly out of the Northeast Conference, so that's a big blow there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kelly was.
Did a great
job.
Bobby's
still on.
No, Bobby and Kelly are both off.
Right. Okay. So I am completely off. Is what this means, folks. Dave is completely off, and that's what it is. The women's committee, though, has had so much turnover. That's where I'm losing track. We've had so many not fill out their full 4 years. And so I've just lost track with the whole thing. So I apologize for that. So, yeah, you had to replace Bobby out of the Mid-Atlantic, you had to replace Kelly out of the Northeast. Yeah, it's 2 very strong members, and I know 2 who very much helped with the process, and 2 who had teams involved some years and some not. Who have replaced them?
So the replacement for the Northeast Conference is Michael Williams. He's the head coach at Simmons College.
Yes.
And then the replacement out of Bobby's region is Daniel Fisher, who's the commissioner of the landmark.
Oh, Dan Fisher, yes, absolutely. Yes. If I had known that the other day, well, I'll see him. I'll see him. He lives in the hood, as they say.
Right.
Poor Dan. I'm going to be saying hi to him a little more than he wants. Go ahead.
Right. And then Dave Petroff out of the Central. He obviously took a new position. And he's working with that, actually with Genius Sports, doing all the new stat stuff.
Right.
So we're still waiting for the announcement.
Okay.
They're in the final announcement of who will take over the Central region.
Gotcha.
So we will actually have 3 new members to the National Committee.
Yeah, we should mention Dave Petroff, the former sports information director, athletics director of communications. I'm not sure what his title was at Edgewood. took a
Right.
job technically out of the NCAA. He's working with Genius Sports, as you pointed out, which
Right.
is the new Stat Crew program for the NCAA. We'll get in the weeds. We can certainly talk about that on a future show, maybe, if anybody's interested. But he's still revolving around the NCAA, so that's why I say technically. But as a result, had to step aside from his role. Dave was pretty instrumental, though, for this committee, Karen, especially last year, because he was one of very few who doesn't have a team that he has to step aside for. Even if Edgewood was in the conversation, he's not a coach. So a lot of stuff got kind of put on his shoulders last year.
Yeah, Dave did a great job. I mean, he really helped us at the Final Four, too, because he was our stat guy. You know what I mean? He knew everything about that. Being an SID is huge.
Yeah.
So we won't have an SID on the committee. So, that'll be something, a role that we'll have to fill. For sure. That was actually super helpful.
I'm sure.
To have that when you're running, the championship. So, but I think we've got a great group. We still have Polly Thompson from the South and Chris Hoffman from the Great Lakes. We have Jim Scheibel from the East. Leslie Irvine is in the West. So we still have a great experience, a great group of people. And, I think we're, as a committee, we're excited and, we're going to try to do a really great job.
We should point out on the men's side, I'm sure everybody kind of knows this, Sam Atkinson is the chair. He's a sports information director, athletics communications guy. So, yes, I've seen how they have certainly made an impact, and I've seen a number of sports information directors on other committees that have made an impact, and it's great to see the diversity, to be sure. And we should point out, too, again, Karen, half this committee must be administrators of some type. Now, we've talked about on the women's side, and the reason you guys end up with so few people available to do some of the heavy lifting because teams are involved. Yourself and others also have a split role. You're not only a head coach, you're also an administrator, and that kind of plays into the numbers a little bit.
Right. I'm actually not an administrator.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I thought you were. I apologize.
But it's not. No. So I think Polly and Chris.
Yes.
They're both, and obviously Leslie's an athletic director at Pomona Pitzer, and then Daniel's a conference commissioner. So we're a little bit more diverse, I think, this year. Which will be good.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you had an administrative role, and I've always had that in my head. So I apologize. I'm
going to have you call my athletic director and
sure,
talk to her about that.
Sure. What's the number? How to take care of that for you? All right. So listen, you've had a few years of experience now. You've had a Final Four in Atlanta or in Indy experience. You've had it all. What have you guys done well? But what are you also trying to improve upon?
Well, I think one of the things that we did early on when I was on the committee is that combined championship, and I think that's one of the things that we have done really well, and that's one of the things that we are continuing to work with the vice president of women's basketball and the NCAA to try to continue that. So, I think that's something, that joint championship, that we're very proud of. I know, Dave, you might not completely agree with that, but I think it's been a great thing for women's basketball, and it's something that the committee really feels pretty strongly about, that we want to continue that. And we sort of have something in the works, and so does men's basketball as well. So, that's something.
Yeah, let me just quickly say, I don't disagree with the idea. I loved it in Indy. I thought the women's was better than the men's, and that's a hard sell because men's in Atlanta was pretty outstanding. But with it all being in the same facility, and the crowd just felt more involved with the D3 game, my concern is the schedule. My only concern is the schedule.
Right.
The women had it, and the women had a shorter one. They had a 5-week. The men had a 6-week postseason, and that's my only concern. I love the premise outside of that. I just hope we can maybe find some way of solving the tournament so that we're not dragging it out or having these two teams at the end sitting on their heels for 2 weeks. That's my only caveat. That's it.
Yeah, and I guess there is always going to be a downside. I guess that's one of the downsides of it. But so many positive things came from that combined championship that, my committee felt really strongly that that's something that we try to push forward and continue with. And our goal is to have one more combined championship over the next 5 years, and we're putting some things in place for that. And it'll be a little bit down the road, but I feel confident that that's hopefully something that we can get accomplished. And depending on how the calendar falls is kind of how much time is in between.
Yeah, we should point out, we mentioned this before, there's a push from the President's Council, I think the President's, I know it's gone past management's, I think President's Council, to have at least one before 20 2024, and then another one before 2030. So I know they're in the books. The other thing, too, I want to point out, and this is more men's side, we got to have the right city. Women, again, we can all have it in the same facility. That's awesome. It makes it easier for everybody. They get to enjoy it. The men are using two different facilities because we don't want to be in a 70,000-seat arena. And having those things close to each other, I think, is key. But we're diving into the weeds here. Anything else that, though, moving into this year, especially as chair, that you're hoping that you guys can improve upon?
Well, I think two things. I mean, one, first of all, we're really excited to be going back to Salem for the first time.
Yeah.
Obviously the men have had a long history of hosting in Salem, and just having my limit the few times that I've interacted with the people with Salem already, I'm super excited. I think that's going to be phenomenal. So we're really excited about that. And one of the things we're really working hard at is that grassroots marketing and increasing attendance and trying to have some events. We're working on a Fan Fest event outside of the championship that will draw in, more attendance and really hopefully provide a better experience for our student athletes. So I think that's one thing that we're really committed to. And then the other thing, legislation-wise, the basketball committee put forward a recommendation for that first round matchup in the NCAA tournament to not be conference opponents. And I'm sure, Dave, you know the history of this and you know what I'm talking about, but obviously the people at the Northwest Conference and sometimes Texas are both really affected by this, and so that's a budgetary issue. So we have
first round or first weekend?
First round is what we, obviously we would love it to be first weekend, and if it was up to,
that's another budgetary conversation.
Right. If it was up to us, Dave, that's what we did. But, sometimes you got to take one small step forward to get to that, main goal.
Yeah.
I think that would be the end goal, is to have it be first weekend. But right now we're working on first round. And we have a proposal in place and are put forward, and they're reviewing it. And it obviously we affect more than just women's basketball. That would have effect on sports across the board. So I think that's something that my committee is working really hard at. And if we could get that accomplished, I think that would be a big win for, like I said, especially the Northwest and the South. And that would be a good positive step forward. And then we can, always go back and work on it some more.
Let me ask you this. I always was under the impression that whether it was legislated or not, you don't want conference games in that first round.
We don't.
Is this kind of not a ploy almost to force the hand to make sure you don't get them? And in the case of 3 Northwest Conference teams, you get the right to ship one out?
That's exactly the idea.
Okay.
That's where it becomes a budget issue. So,
gotcha.
Obviously we do the best we can with the bracket, but we're under some constraints. We
Right.
have to have minimum flights, minimum travel, minimum missed class time. So that's what happens in the Northwest. And because in the other regions there's so many schools and there's so many more options, we can avoid that. Mm-hmm. But in the Northwest, that generally means it's another flight.
Right.
And that equals, money. So, so like I said, we're working really hard with the NCAA, and like I said, Liz, Vice President of Women's Basketball, is very receptive to this. And, we've got to work through some steps on this, but we're hopeful that this would be a first positive step for those teams out in the Northwest and perhaps, teams down in Texas that could affect them as well. So
that's a fascinating
It would apply
move.
to everyone, but
sure.
know what I'm saying. Those are the teams that it affects the most.
No, I like it. And it's a little gamesmanship, to be honest, because you literally are going to make sure a Northwest, if you were in that situation in the last few years where we've had 3 Northwest Conference teams, that's the prime example there's other scenarios, but that's the prime example. You force the hand. You force making sure that we split at least one of those out of there. It's still unfortunate for 2 of them, but you still make and I applaud that. That I'll be fascinated to hear if that can be approved, because that would shift things a little bit for sure.
Yeah, we hope so. And we'll have there's some budget stuff going in, and then that'll be reviewed in February. So it could be something. I don't know if it'd be something that can get in place this year, but it could be something that gets in place next year. And we're real hopeful that would be a real positive thing for our committee to do. Something substantial, really.
Sometimes it may not be effective this year, but it's a big step in any direction. We'll take it whenever we can get it. So.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to stress heading into the holidays here? I mean, again, we don't have regional rankings around the corner. It's not like your committee's doing a ton of work right now. But we all know the game today means just as much as it does in February. We preach that nonstop every season. But is there anything from your point of view that you're trying to make sure everybody else knows, or that you're telling your own committee?
Not really, Dave. It's true what you said, and hopefully, like, people are starting to understand how it works and starting to get the steam of it. Like, the game you play in November, whatever your first game is, that game is just as important as the game you play in February. So, the way schedules are set up and your opponents and those regional games and trying to go out and find the best competition to play and to put your team. This is what I say. I don't know if I say this to the committee, but this is what I say to my team. When we're doing scheduling, I say, listen, I try to put ourselves in a position. We obviously want to try to win our conference, but if not, we want to put ourselves in a position to get an at-large bid. And to do that, you need a certain strength of schedule. You need to try to have a win or some wins against a ranked opponent, and some of it's a guessing game. So, you don't know how a team's going to be from year to year, but you try your best to put a schedule together that will put your team in a position to have an opportunity, to get ranked in the region and to have a good strength of schedule and, to maybe pick up a regional win or two. So, you need to be very thoughtful about who you're playing and put a lot of effort and energy into that.
We'll be talking to Karen and Sam quite a bit during the season. We always have them later in the year, so I don't want to dive too much further in. But one other thing I wanted to touch on was every couple of years, the committee chairs do tend to get together at the NCAA level, share notes, compare what they want to do. Sometimes you're also communicating outside of that. The men's committee and the women's committee, I know sometimes chat, sometimes you might know somebody else on other sporting committees. What have you gathered that other committees do that maybe you want to incorporate, or what have you shared with others, about the process that we should know about, or is there something, like I alluded to, that maybe you guys have pulled in to better understand this data and to do, I don't want to say a better job, but you're always trying to do better, so.
Right. I think, really what we've been collaborating on mostly is this combined championship, because that's a men's and women's basketball both effort. And then, this legislation for this first-round matchup. I mean, those are kind of been the two things that we've really been collaborating on. There's also some other work going on about new regional alignments.
Yes.
We've had some input in that. And then, obviously, the strategic plan for women's basketball. Mm-hmm. That's all of women's basketball, all divisions. We've been involved in that. I've been on several calls regarding that. So I think there's actually a lot going on, Dave. And, I think it's all positive for the sport of women's basketball and basketball in general.
Well, like I said, could talk more and more about this, but then we just waste the whole show, and maybe it'd just be cool for me. So we'll wrap it up on that point committee-wise. Let's take a break, if you don't mind, and we'll come back. Let's talk about your team, because there's a few things we want to talk about. You may think that you're not conference or you're going to have a tough time getting the tournament this year. That doesn't mean we still don't want to talk to you. So we'll take a quick break from talking to Karen, and when we come back, we will talk to her more about Montclair State women's basketball. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports. and what we can still love about college sports.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. On there, I see Scott Robbins has made a comment, said, how about that Plattsburgh State starting 2-0, beating Skidmore last night? I would say expected. I knew Plattsburgh would be pretty good. It's why I ranked them in my top 25. Also, Dave Brazelton saying hello from Alabama. Hello, Mr. Brazelton. Good to see you. Rusty Egan tuning in. Appreciate his joining us as well. Damian, Justin, Megan, Kim, and Ira, thank you guys for tuning in onto the show. We appreciate you taking the time and hope we're entertaining you. Let's continue our conversation with Karen Harvey. This time, let's switch gears and let's talk about the team. And she joins us once again on the Hoopsville hotline, all regarding now Montclair. And first off, Coach, you're off to at least a good start for a 24th ranked team in the country. Getting out of the gate is always the toughest part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll take that first one for sure.
I thought you might. You kind of hinted at the earlier part. You certainly lost some players from last year's squad.
I would say.
Yeah, just a couple, 2, 3. What is the biggest thing you need to recover from, I guess? I don't have a better way of asking that.
Right. Well, I would say this, Dave. Let's put it in perspective. So I have 1 senior, 1 junior, and 4 sophomores,
okay,
and all the rest freshmen. So as of right now, I have 4 players that played for me before on my team.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're young and we're new, and I like them. You know what I mean? They're working really hard. We've got some talent, but it's just a new system and a new program. And when you have 7 freshmen who've never played college basketball before, there's a lot of learning to do. So, we're excited about the future. Right now, it doesn't always look like Montclair State basketball, but I think it will. I don't know when, but I think it will. And this is a little bit. We haven't been in this situation in a long time, so it's a new challenge for us, and everyone's trying to figure it out, including the coaches.
Well, one of the things that did pop out to me is you have a lot of size. I'm used to more of a smaller, quicker team, I guess, from you guys, and maybe it's a trick of the eye. But you've got, let's see, I've got 3 at 5'11". I've got 4 more at 6 foot or taller. That's 7 5'11", really 7 6-footers unless we're stretching some of those stats. But that's a lot of height for you. Is that also an adjustment?
Yeah. No, we just got some big guards. I like the long guards. I do.
Okay.
That's what we try to recruit is those longer guards. And then we got a great transfer in Kayla Bush. She's a 6'3" post player who, I'm going to say by February she's going to be shooting the 3 for me. So yeah. So, like I said, I like what we have and it fits well into our system. It's just, it's just going to take us a little bit to put it together, I think.
Got the first win over Hunter, 71-50, back last week on the 12th. You were supposed to be heading to Drew University this weekend. Oh, no, plans have changed. You're coming home. The tournament is shifted to your place. What is that all about? This can't be weather-related, is it?
Yeah, well, you know what? I got a phone call from my pal, John Olenaski, the head coach over at Drew. We're buddies. He's a great guy. And I got a voicemail from him this morning, Dave, that said, Karen, we have a problem. You need to call me.
Oh.
So I was like, uh-oh.
That's not what you want to hear.
No, I was like, John, and he goes, we cannot host. So they have a facility problem.
Oh, no.
And he said, I want to move the tournament to Montclair. I'm like, oh, boy.
Please, 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 please.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm lucky. Holly Guerra, 30-year athletic director. She is the best. I tell you what, I called her. I said, Holly, don't freak out. But what do you think about this? And, within an hour, we had to kind of put together. And, we got a lot of people that are obviously staff that are going to have to really step up. And Drew's going to bring some people over, and we're just going to kind of run a combined tournament. And, if we didn't do it, 4 teams would be out games. So we don't want to do that, No. So, yeah.
Interesting. Fascinating, to say the least. You'll take on St. Lawrence. Obviously, Drew's the other one. Who's the 4th team? I didn't even check on that.
Albertus Magna.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was sitting here going, listen, I know the Nor'easter heading up the East Coast is definitely overperforming. It is a lot bigger and nastier than people thought it was, but there's no way that had to do anything with anything. Fascinating tournament events. You won't get much of a break. You'll get right into conference play after that. 2 days later, we should point out, when you'll take on William Patterson with 1T. And then a non-conference play against Stevens, and then back into conference play. And you really are going to get into conference play here. Ramapo, Kane, New Jersey City, TCNJ, and Rutgers Newark. You're going to take on some early tests here early on this season.
Absolutely.
What do you expect from the conference this year? Because the last couple of years, they've started nipping at your heels.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, no, yeah. We're not the best team in the conference. I'll tell you that right
now.
now.
Breaking news, everybody. Breaking news.
No. TCNJ, I'm guessing that TCNJ is the best team in the conference. That's what I would think.
Okay.
They have a ton of talent back. They're really well coached. They've got a bunch of experienced players, and I think that they're going to be very, very tough. Very, very tough. I haven't seen them play yet, but that would be my guess. They're going to be pretty tough. But, William Patterson has got everybody back. That's who we have on Tuesday. But I got to tell you right now, I'm just worried about St. Lawrence.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen them play, Dave, but they're a really good basketball team. And they talk about size. Holy cow.
Yeah, they've been improving.
They're huge.
Yeah, they've definitely been improving. 17-9 after a 9-15 campaign, and off to a start with a win over Potsdam to get things going. So, yeah, I know you're focused on St. Lawrence, but come on, Coach. We're not going to talk to you until January. I got to get some conference stuff in here. You know how this works.
Did you see what Stevens did, too? Because you didn't mention them, but I have them in between. Yeah, I have William Patterson, Stevens.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they're only off to a 2-0 start with wins over West Con and Catholic. Now, nothing shaky about that whatsoever. So in other words, Coach, you are not shying away from a tough schedule, which I applaud. I like teams who go out there and do that. I get frustrated with the teams that just kind of grab anybody and pretend that that's getting themselves ready. Now, I know some schools, extenuating circumstances. We talked to GP Gromacki about that in the past. But, I applaud you going out there, because the other thing, too, is you're doing not only preparing for conference play, but from the committee, this stuff's important. SOS and regionally ranked opponents and common opponents, and all of these things are really important when it comes down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Brooklyn on our schedule. They're always really good. And then, of course, the schedule I couldn't control was that St. Pete tournament, and I got Wisconsin, Lutheran, and Albright. So,
they're kind of good.
Yes, I don't have any, there's nothing. No.
Yeah, I noticed that Wisconsin Lutheran one. I would tell you to come out to the D3 Hoops Classic one in Vegas, but you're not going to have control there either, because we're going to give you some good ones too. So
yeah, exactly.
It's going to work out some way against you, no matter how you do it. So how do you prepare your team though for what is? Let's be honest, you got a bit of a grind here, because you got 5 games coming up in a span of 11 days, and you're deep into conference play. You're going to have a good chunk of games here before they get a break, or even before they go to Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. No, we're just, I know, Dave, you want me to say something special here, but I just say we're kind of trying to take it one day at a time. I can't overwhelm them. Like, I really can't. Like, I haven't even talked about conference with them yet, because we got this tournament we got to focus on, and we're just going to try to get like 1 inch better every day. And we have a lot of work to do. Like I said,
gotcha.
It doesn't exactly look like Montclair State basketball just yet, but it will. It will. It will. I promise you.
Hey, sometimes winning ugly is the same as winning pretty. It's still a win in the win column.
When it clicks, it's going to be pretty good.
Well, you only gave me like 1 or 2 coach speaks in there, so I don't mind. It's fine. We're good. 1 game at a time. We'll let that one slide for now. Karen, thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to talking to you in late January, early February, when we get regional rankings rolling, and then at the end of the season, and conversing in the meantime. Have fun as a chair. Have fun as coaching this year. As always, you give the coach the final word, though. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, Dave, no, just appreciate everything you do for women's basketball, and I always love being on your show. It's always so much fun. And if you send someone to get my car off campus so I can go home, that'd be great, too.
There are a few people in New Jersey who are listening to the show right now. You've heard the request out of Montclair, folks. Karen needs to get her car, which is apparently not around the corner. I wish you all luck because I can only imagine what 5 inches of snow has done to your neck of the woods.
Yeah, exactly.
Traveling in that neck of the woods is tough enough. Thanks. Take care of yourself. Have fun this weekend. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. Karen Harvey joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline from Montclair State. Again, their tournament at home, not at Drew. They'll take on St. Lawrence, and then the winner of Drew or Albertus Magnus on, let's see, those are Saturday, Sunday. And then Tuesday, start conference play against William Patterson. And then, yeah, as we mentioned, the following Monday, Stevens, and then Rambo. Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a schedule. We'll take another break. When we come back, switch gears. We'll talk men's basketball. We'll go to Ohio Northern, talk to their head coach. We've not talked to Ohio Northern since Damon Goodwin stepped down as head coach. We'll talk to them about their All-American, their expectations in the OAC, and much more. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. We hope more Hoopsville after this. Guess what happened? If you're all familiar with Hoopsville, you know what just happened. Despite all our best efforts, our computer is going to crash here. We will keep the stream going. Don't worry about that, folks. Facebook may restart on a different stream. I apologize. That's out of our control here. But we will get both of them up and going as soon as the system allows it. Gives us a real quick chance to remind you. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville, #Hoopsville. That's where you can ask us questions. You can also do it on